Ethan Cole had been to strange places before, but nothing prepared him for the Veyralian High Council chamber. The room was shaped like a giant silver dome, with walls that shimmered like water. Dozens of alien figures sat in a half-circle, there, eyes glowing in shades of blue and gold. They stared at him as if he were the rarest creature they had ever seen. Some looked curious, others suspicious, and a few, almost hostile. A tall figure in the center rose, her robes flowing like liquid light. She was the High Chancellor, the leader of the Veyralians. Her voice was calm but carried a strange weight. "Human Ethan Cole," she said, "your species may be few in number here, but you have something our people desperately need." Ethan's brow furrowed. "And what's that?" he asked. The Chancellor's eyes seemed to study him, as if measuring his soul. "Fertility," she said. "Our people are dying out. Births are rare, and without new life, we will vanish within a generation." A murmur spread through the council. Ethan felt his chest tightened. He had heard rumors about alien species facing extinction, but he never thought he'd be dragged into something like this. Then two figures entered the chamber from a side door. They were sisters, tall and graceful. Their skin a soft luminescent hue that seemed to shift between silver and violet. One had calm, steady eyes, Lyara. The other had a wild, untamed spark in her gaze, Sira. The younger, Atis's breath caught for a moment. Not just because of their beauty, but because they radiated something. Alive, even standing still, they seemed to draw the air toward them. The Chancellor spoke again. "You will choose one of these sisters to bond with. To help restore our numbers." Ethan blinked, unsure he'd heard correctly. "Wait, choose one. Just like that." "It is our way," the Chancellor replied. "The chosen will bear the next generation, and your role will be to ensure her success." The two sisters stood quietly, their expressions unreadable. Ethan could feel the weight of the moment pressing on him. The council members leaned forward, eager to hear his answer. He glanced at Lyara, calm, wise, and strong. Then at Sira, fierce, unpredictable, and alive like a storm. He thought about what the Chancellor had said. They were asking him to save their people. But how could he truly do that if he only chose one? His instincts, honed from years of surviving in alien worlds, screamed at him that this was more than just a personal choice, was a political trap. Choosing one sister meant alienating the other. It meant taking sides in a game he didn't fully understand. Ethan took a slow breath. "I appreciate the offer," he said carefully, "but I won't choose between them." Gasps echoed through the chamber. Several council members whispered furiously. Others stared in shock. The Chancellor's eyes narrowed. "That is not how our law works." "Human, maybe not," Ethan said, his voice steady. "But you asked me to help save your people, and I won't do it halfway. If both sisters can give life to the next generation, then I choose both." The chamber erupted into chaos. Some shouted in outrage, others laughed in disbelief. The sisters looked at him, and surprised Lyara's lips curved into the faintest smile. Sira's eyes widened in something between shock and admiration. One council member slammed his hand on the table. "Impossible. No man in our history has bonded with two at once." Ethan didn't back down. "Then maybe it's time to make history," he said. Silence fell for a moment, heavy and tense. The Chancellor studied him for a long time. "You do not know the danger of what you're asking," she warned. Ethan met her gaze. "I think I do. But if I have to risk myself to save both of them, your people, then so be it." The sisters exchanged a glance, something unspoken passing between them. Lyara stepped forward slightly, her calm voice breaking the tension. "If the human chooses, you ask both, then we accept." Sira smirked. "This is going to be fun." The Chancellor's voice was low but sharp. "You have just made powerful enemies. Ethan Cole. Ethan simply nodded. Wouldn't be the first time, and somewhere deep inside the council chamber, hidden from sight, someone's cold eyes watched him. A shadow moved silently away, carrying a message to unseen ears. The human has refused the law. Prepare the consequences. Asterisk. The moment Ethan spoke those words, I choose both, the chamber exploded into noise. Alien voices rose in anger, shock, and disbelief. Echoing off the silver dome walls like thunder trapped in a bottle, some council members stood up, pointing their fingers at him, their faces twisted in disgust. Others whispered to each other in hushed tones, calculating what this bold choice might mean for them. The High Chancellor raised her hand, but even her authority could not calm the storm immediately. Her voice cut through the noise, sharp and clear. Silence, reluctantly. The crowd obeyed, though their eyes still burned with judgment. You have defied tradition, human Ethan Cole. She said slowly, our people have bonded one-to-one for centuries. It is the foundation of our family system. Ethan kept his gaze steady. Then maybe that system needs to change if you want your species to survive. Gasps rippled through the chamber again. No outsider had ever spoken so directly to the council. Before, a councilman with deep crimson eyes stood, his voice low but full of venom. Your arrogance will destroy us. The Veyralian people will not follow such chaos. Before Ethan could respond, Sira stepped forward, her head high and her voice fierce. The human is right. If we only do what we've always done, we will vanish like dust in the wind. Lyara joined her, calm but firm. We are sisters. We have fought side by side in wars. We can raise the next generation together. The Chancellor's eyes narrowed. Do you understand what you are asking for? Not just in the council chamber, but out there, in the streets. Many will see this as a scandal. Some will see it as an attack on our culture. Ethan's jaw tightened. Let them see it however they want. I'm not here to follow your rules. I'm here to save lives. A murmur spread again. But this time, there was a small shift. Some voices seemed less hostile, more curious. Still, the majority glared at him. The Chancellor finally said, very well, you will be placed in temporary quarters with both sisters, so we may observe your compatibility, but understand this if conflict arises. The council will end this arrangement immediately. Ethan nodded. Fine by me. Lyara bowed her head slightly in agreement. Sira just gave a playful smirk, clearly enjoying the chaos they had stirred as the council session ended. Ethan noticed several members leaving quickly, their faces tense. He had been around politics long enough to know what that meant. They were plotting something. The sisters led him out of the chamber, down a hallway lit with soft green light. The alien city beyond the chamber's balcony stretched far into the horizon, with floating platforms and glowing spires. It looked beautiful, but Ethan could feel the tension in the air like a storm brewing. When they reached their assigned quarters, the door sealed behind them with a faint hiss. The room was large, with curved walls, a single wide sleeping platform, and a garden of bioluminescent plants in the center. Sira dropped onto the bed. With a grin, well, you've certainly made things interesting. Lyara gave Ethan a more serious look. Do you realize what you've done? The law forbids our choice. The council might let this test run, but there will be those who try to end it permanently. Ethan sat down in one of the strange low chairs. I know. I also know that you're both important for your people's future. I'm not going to let politics decide which of you gets to live that future. Sira leaned back, her sharp eyes fixed on him. You're different from most humans I've met. Most would have taken the safer path. Safe paths rarely lead anywhere. Worth going, Ethan replied with a half smile. That night, the air in the quarters felt heavy. Ethan couldn't shake the feeling that someone was watching them once. He thought he saw a flicker of movement outside the balcony, too fast to be a shadow, too slow to be the wind, when he went to check, there was nothing. Before sleep could fully take him, there was a faint sound. Something slid under the main door, an object wrapped in a piece of thin metal foil. Ethan picked it up, unfolding it to reveal a single message etched in glowing ink. Choose one now, or lose them both. His eyes scanned the room. Lyara was asleep, peaceful and still. Sira was awake, watching him silently from the bed, her expression unreadable. She didn't ask what the message said, but her eyes told him. She already knew, somewhere deep inside. Ethan understood this wasn't just about repopulation anymore. It was about survival, not just his, but theirs. Ethan didn't sleep that night. The message burned in his mind: choose one now, or lose them both. It wasn't an empty warning. He had seen enough political games across the galaxy to know when threats were real, and this one felt real. The morning came with a pale violet light spilling through the balcony windows. Lyara prepared a light meal from alien fruits, her calm hands moving with quiet precision. Sira sat cross-legged on the bed, her eyes sharp, scanning the room as if expecting danger at any moment. Ethan noticed she had kept her sidearm within arm's reach all night. He didn't blame her. They were scheduled for their first compatibility observation that day. A group of council-appointed watchers would follow them in public to record how they interacted. To the council, this was a test. But Ethan knew it was also a chance for his enemies to make a move. As they stepped into the city streets, Ethan was struck again by the alien beauty of Veyralian. The air shimmered faintly, as if carrying flecks of light. Floating platforms moved between towering spires, their surfaces lined with plants that glowed softly everywhere. Veyralians paused to stare at them, some curious, some openly hostile. Whispers followed them like shadows. Ethan caught words. In the alien language he had learned: outsider, lawbreaker, corrupter. Lyara kept her posture regal. Refusing to be rattled, Sira muttered curses under her breath, her tail thin and whip-like, flicking with irritation. Ethan walked between them, his senses sharp, eyes scanning every corner, every rooftop. A habit from years of surviving in dangerous places, it didn't take long for him to spot the first tail. A figure in a dark hood followed them at a distance, always keeping just out of reach. When Ethan changed his pace, the figure did too. The watchers from the council seemed oblivious or pretended not to notice. At a crowded market bridge, the figure vanished into an alley. Ethan slowed, listening. The crowd's noise almost drowned it out, but he caught the faint sound of metal scraping like a weapon being readied. Without warning, he grabbed both sisters and pulled them behind a vendor's stall. A second later, something zipped through the air where they had been standing. A thin dart embedded itself into the market wall, its tip still smoking. Sira's eyes flared with fury. Cowards, she hissed. Lyara bent closer to examine the dart. Her voice, low neurotoxin, fast-acting, lethal to humans in under a minute. Ethan's jaw tightened. Then it wasn't a warning shot. They didn't return to the council that day. Instead, Ethan led them through side streets and hidden walkways. He had memorized from old city maps. The watchers lost track of them, which was exactly what he wanted. If someone was trying to kill them, he couldn't rely on official protection back at their quarters. Ethan paced while the sisters spoke quietly in their native tongue. Finally, Sira looked at him. "You think this is about you, don't you?" Ethan raised an eyebrow. "It's not." Sira shook her head. "You're part of it, sure. But this has been coming for years. The council has been splitting apart, those who want to change and those who fear it." Lyara added, "By choosing both of us, you didn't just break a rule. You gave the reformers hope and the traditionalists a reason to panic." Ethan sighed. "So now I've got two factions gunning for us." "More than two," Sira said grimly. "Some would rather see us dead than see you succeed." The room grew quiet. Ethan went to the balcony, looking over the alien city bathed in twilight. Somewhere out there, he knew, people were already making plans to test his resolve, and the message he had found last night replayed in his head. Choose one now, or lose them both. That night, Ethan barely closed his eyes. Every small sound made his hand go to the knife at his belt. The bioluminescent garden in the center of their quarters cast shifting shadows on the walls around midnight. He caught movement again, this time inside the room. A small, spider-like drone crawled along the wall. Its single red eye scanning, Ethan moved fast, grabbing it before it could react, smashing it against the floor until it sparked and died. When he looked up, Lyara and Sira were both awake, weapons in hand. No one spoke for a moment. Then Lyara said quietly, "They're watching everything." Sira smirked darkly. "Then let's give them a show." Ethan met their eyes. "No. We're going to do more than that. We're going to make sure they never get another chance." The attack came without warning. One moment the quarters were quiet, the next, the door exploded inward. With a flash of blinding light, Ethan's ears rang as armored figures stormed inside, moving with military precision before he could react, to grab Sira. Pinning her arms and forcing a black hood over her head, Lyara shouted and tried to fight. But one of the intruders slammed her against the wall. Ethan moved on instinct. He tackled one attacker, slamming him into the floor. But another figure struck him from behind with a shock baton. His vision blurred, his muscles went numb. The last thing he saw before darkness claimed him was Sira being dragged away, her muffled voice calling his name. When Ethan woke, his head throbbed. Lyara was kneeling beside him, her eyes fierce but wet with frustration. "They took her," she said, her voice trembling. "They took Sira." Ethan forced himself to sit up. Ignoring the pain, "How long ago?" "Less than an hour," Lyara replied. "But the council guards, they're not going to help us. They'll call it internal business and look the other way." Ethan already knew she was right. He pushed to his feet, scanning the room for weapons. "Then we do this ourselves," he said, his tone like steel. Lyara hesitated. "You don't understand. Whoever took her, they are not just criminals. They're part of the old guard. They have resources, safe houses, weapons." Ethan grabbed a small alien pistol from the wreckage of the door, checking its charge. "Good. That means they'll think they're safe." They moved quickly through the city's underlevels. Lyara led the way, guiding him through hidden tunnels and narrow alleys. She had contacts people who didn't trust the council and owed her favors. One such contact, a pale-skinned alien with insect-like eyes, handed Ethan a data chip without a word. The chip contained coordinates to a warehouse on the far side of the city. "That's where they're keeping her," Lyara said. The warehouse sat on the edge of the industrial sector. Its walls were lined with pipes, leaking faint steam, the air thick with the scent of burning metal. Ethan crouched behind a stack of crates, studying the guards outside for, in total, heavily armed. Lyara whispered, "We can't take them all head-on." Ethan smirked faintly. "We don't have to." He waited until the guards shifted their positions. Then he tossed a small piece of scrap metal toward the far end of the yard. The clang echoed, drawing 2 guards away. That was enough. Ethan moved fast, dropping the first remaining guard with a silent chokehold. Lyara struck the other with a precise blow to the side of the head. Within seconds, they were at the warehouse door. Inside, the air was cold. Rows of crates stretched into the shadows, but in the center of the room was a stasis cage glowing faint. Blue, Sira was inside, bound and unconscious, her breathing shallow. Ethan rushed forward, pressing his hands against the cage's controls. The interface was in Veyralian script, but he recognized enough symbols to start bypassing the locks. "Hey." Voice echoed from the shadows, bold for a human. An older Veyralian stepped forward, his armor marked with the crest of the old guard. "You should have chosen one. Now you'll lose both." 2 more guards emerged from the darkness. Weapons raised, Ethan positioned himself between them and the cage. "You'll have to go through me first," he said. The leader smirked. "That can be arranged." The first guard fired, but Ethan dove aside. Returning fire with sharp precision, Lyara moved like a dancer. Her strikes swift and devastating. The fight was brutal and fast when it ended. The guards lay unconscious or groaning on the floor. Ethan turned back to the cage. Forcing the last lock open, the field dropped, and Sira fell forward into his arms, weak but alive. Her eyes fluttered open, and she whispered, "Took you long enough." Ethan gave a faint grin. "I had to make an entrance before they could move." A heavy door slammed shut at the far end of the warehouse. A deep alarm began to blare, red lights flashing across the walls. Lyra's eyes narrowed. "They've locked us in." Ethan glanced at the vents above, already hearing the hiss of incoming gas. "Then we need a way out, now." The gas hissed louder with every passing second. A sharp, bitter smell filled the air, burning Ethan's throat. Lyara covered her mouth with her sleeve, her eyes scanning the ceiling. "It's a nerve agent," she said quickly. "It will paralyze us before it kills us." Ethan tightened his grip on Sira, who was still too weak to stand. He looked around the warehouse grates, pipes, locked doors, and the vents pumping death into the room. "Then we need a filter. Fast," he muttered. His eyes landed on an open tool crate in the corner. Without hesitation, he ran to it, grabbing scraps of fabric, pieces of tubing, and a small portable purifier. Lyara caught on immediately, helping him attach the tubing to the purifier's intake. Sira coughed weakly. "You're making a mask out of junk?" Ethan smirked. Better than dying, he fitted the makeshift mask over her mouth and nose, then began working on a second one for Lyara. By the time he made his own, the gas had thickened, curling like pale snakes across the floor. Vents, too. "Small to crawl through," Lyara said, glancing up. Ethan's eyes swept the room until he spotted a maintenance hatch on the far wall, half hidden behind a stack of metal crates. "That's our way out," he said. The problem was obvious. Those crates were massive and stacked tight. He set Sira gently against the wall, then motioned to Lyara. "Help me move these." They pushed together, muscles straining, the sound of grinding metal echoing in the enclosed space. Every breath felt heavier, every movement slower. Ethan knew they had minutes at most. Finally, they shifted enough crates to reach the hatch. Lyra's fingers flew over the control pad, bypassing the lock with practiced skill. The hatch slid open, revealing a narrow maintenance tunnel. Ethan lifted Sira into his arms again and climbed inside, Lyara following and sealing the hatch behind them. The tunnel was dark, the air stale but breathable. Water dripped from overhead pipes, and the floor vibrated faintly with the hum of machinery. They moved quickly, Ethan carrying Sira while Lyara scouted ahead. The sound of distant boots echoed through the metal wall's pursuers. "They're coming from both ends," Lyara whispered. Ethan glanced up at the pipes overhead. "If they block both ends, we go up," he said, pointing to a vertical shaft. Lyara looked doubtful. "That's a coolant pipe. It's cold enough to freeze your skin in seconds." Ethan grinned. "Then we climb fast." He slung Sira over his back, her arms wrapping weakly around his neck. With one deep breath, he jumped, catching the metal rungs inside the shaft. The freezing metal bit into his hands, but he climbed without slowing. Lyara followed close behind, her breath fogging in the cold air. They emerged into a utility bay. Ethan set Sira down gently. Checking her breathing, she was recovering, though still pale. Lyara moved to the bay's door, peering through a small crack. "We're in the outer docks," she said. "If we can get to a transport, we can disappear before they know where we went." They slipped out quietly, sticking to the shadows. The outer docks were a maze of cargo lifts, suspended walkways, and small ships docked for maintenance. Ethan spotted a patrol of guards moving nearby and pulled the sisters into the shadow of a fuel tank. The guards passed without noticing, their voices fading into the distance. Sira's voice was low but determined. "We can't keep running forever. We have to hit back." Ethan nodded. "I know, but first, we need a place they can't find us." Lyara pointed toward a small, battered transport ship at the far end of the dock. "That one's old enough to not be tracked through the council systems." She said. They made their way toward it, moving carefully. Between cargo stacks, just as they reached the ramp, a voice rang out behind them. "Stop right there." A squad of armored soldiers was closing in fast, weapons raised. Ethan didn't hesitate. He shoved Lyara and Sira up the ramp and hit the control to close it. Blaster fire lit the dock, scorching the walls around them. Ethan dove inside as the ramp sealed, sprinting to the cockpit. He dropped into the pilot's seat, hands flying over unfamiliar controls. The ship's engine roared to life, trembling under them outside. The soldiers fired at the cockpit windows. Cracks forming in the glass, Ethan slammed the throttle forward. The transport shot out of the dock into open airspace, the city's glowing spires dropping away beneath them. Lyara slid into the co-pilot's seat. Scanning the skies, "They'll send patrol ships after us any second." Ethan grinned without humor. "Then let's make them work for it." The stolen transport cut through the alien sky, its engines groaning under the strain below. The glittering city of Veyralian was shrinking fast, swallowed by rolling clouds. Lyara checked the scanners, her calm voice steady despite the tension. "We've got 2 patrol ships gaining on us. We need to lose them before we reach the outer zones." Ethan's hands gripped the controls tightly. "I can do that," he said, twisting the ship into a sudden dive. The patrols followed, but Ethan used the maze of floating cargo platforms to his advantage, weaving between them until one patrol ship clipped a platform and spun out of control. The second tried to keep up, but Ethan cut the engine suddenly, letting the transport drop like a stone. The patrol overshot them, and Ethan reignited the engines, blasting in the opposite direction. Within minutes, they had left the patrols far behind. Sira leaned back in her seat, still pale, but with a smirk. "Not bad for a human who's never flown one of these before." Ethan glanced at her. "Never said I hadn't." She raised an eyebrow, but said nothing. They landed in a hidden bay carved into the side of a rocky canyon far outside the city. It belonged to one of Lyara's old Alizah quiet mechanic named Veth, who owed her his life. Veth agreed to hide the ship and offered them a safe place to rest, but the safety was temporary, and they all knew it by morning. A summons came from the council. Ethan almost laughed when he read it. "After all that, they still want to see us." Lyra's voice was serious. "This isn't a request. If we don't go, they'll brand us criminals and hunt us down everywhere." Sira crossed her arms. "They're already hunting us." Ethan looked between them, then nodded. "Fine, let's give them the answer they've been waiting for." When they entered the High Council chamber again, the atmosphere was tense. Council guards lined the walls, and every member's eyes were fixed on them. The High Chancellor rose, her voice sharp. "Human Ethan Cole, you have caused disorder, endangered our citizens, and defied our traditions. Now you will end this. Choose one sister, or this arrangement ends now." Ethan stood tall, meeting her gaze. "I already told you, I won't choose between them." A ripple of angry murmurs filled the room. The Chancellor's tone grew colder. "If you refuse, both will be removed from this program and placed under separate guardianship. You will never see them again." Lyra's eyes narrowed, but she stayed. Silent Sira looked ready to leap across the chamber and start a fight. Ethan raised his voice, letting it carry to every corner of the room. "You're not listening. This was never about me breaking your traditions. It's about saving your people. If both sisters can help bring the next generation, then separating. That makes no sense. A councilman slammed his fist on the table. It makes sense because it is our law. Ethan stepped forward, his voice like steel. Then your law is killing you. Gasps filled the chamber, but before anyone could respond, Lyara stepped forward, her calm tone cutting through the tension. Perhaps we should let facts decide, Ethan. Glanced at her, confused, but then saw the faint smile on her lips. Sira's smirk widened. Oh, this is going to be good. Lyara turned to the council. Both of us have been examined recently by your own medics. Would you like to hear the results? The Chancellor's eyes narrowed. Speak. Lyra's voice was steady. We are both carrying. The words hit the chamber like a shockwave. Some council members froze in disbelief. Others began shouting over each other. Ethan's eyes widened. You're saying, Sira, cut him off with a grin. We're both pregnant, human, and it's yours. The uproar was immediate. Several members stood, demanding explanations. Others accused them of lying, but Lyara held up a small medical scanner, activating it to project holographic readings for all to see. The evidence was undeniable. The Chancellor's voice shook slightly, not with fear, but with the weight of realization. This has never happened before in our history. Ethan stepped closer. Then maybe it's time your history changed. You asked me to save your people, and I have by choosing both. I've doubled your chances. The chamber fell into uneasy silence. No one could deny the truth now. Some still looked furious, but others were staring at the sisters with something new in their eyes. Hope. Finally, the Chancellor spoke, her tone softer but still guarded. If this is to stand, the people must accept it. You will face the public, not just the council. If they reject you, this ends. Ethan nodded without hesitation. Then we'll face them together. Lyara and Sira stepped to his side for the first time. All three stood as one in the center of the chamber and somewhere in the shadows above. Unseen eyes watched not with hatred this time, but with a dangerous interest. The council's decision spread through Veyralian like fire through dry grass. By the time Ethan, Lyara, and Sira stepped out onto the Grand Plaza, thousands of Veyralians had gathered. The air was alive with voices, some curious, some angry, and others filled with something Ethan hadn't heard in days. Hope. The High Chancellor had kept her word. If the people accepted them, the arrangement would stand. If they rejected them, it would end. Ethan stood between the sisters, feeling the weight of every eye on him. The plaza itself was breathtaking. Towering crystal pillars ringed the space. Glowing faintly in the alien sunlight, hover drones floated overhead, broadcasting the scene across the entire planet. Lyara stepped forward first, her calm, regal voice carrying easily over the crowd. My people, you know me. You know my service in our wars, my loyalty to our survival, and now you know. This, Ethan Cole, a human, has chosen not to divide us, but to keep us united. A ripple moved through the crowd. Sira took the next step, her tone fierce and unapologetic. We are both carrying his children to new lives already growing, a sign that change is not the enemy, it is our only chance to live. Ethan finally stepped forward, his voice strong. I didn't come here to change your laws. I came here to help save your future. You asked me to choose between them, but I chose all of you. Because survival isn't about tradition. It's about life, and if that means breaking a rule, then so be it. For a moment, there was silence. Then a single voice shouted from the crowd, let them stay. Another joined, then another, until the plaza filled with the sound of hundreds of voices chanting together. Let them stay. Let them stay. The Chancellor stepped to the edge of the council platform, raising her hand when the crowd finally quieted. She spoke. The people have decided. The bond between these three shall stand. Their children will be born as a symbol of unity between human and Veyralian blood. The cheers were deafening. Lyara closed her eyes for a moment, relief washing over her face. Sira grinned, grabbing Ethan's arm. "Guess you're stuck with us now, human," Ethan smirked. "Wouldn't have it any other way." But even in that moment of triumph, Ethan's instincts kept him alert. From the corner of his eye, he caught sight of a figure slipping away through the crowd. A familiar hood, the same shadow he had seen on the first day. The old guard wasn't gone, they were waiting. This victory was just the first battle. Days turned into weeks. The three of them were moved into a private residence within the councils. Protection, guards were posted at all entrances, and the sisters were given the best medical care, but Ethan didn't trust the safety entirely. Every night, he checked the locks twice, scanned the windows, and made sure escape routes were ready. The pregnancies became a topic across the planet. Some praised it as the dawn of a new age. Others cursed it as the death of tradition. But the children growing inside Lyara and Sira were living proof that change could happen, and no amount of argument could erase that. One evening, Ethan stood on the balcony, watching the alien sunset paint the sky in streaks of silver and violet. Lyara joined him, resting a gentle hand on his shoulder. "You know this isn't the end, don't you?" Ethan nodded. "I know there will be others who want to tear this apart, but we'll be ready." Sira appeared behind them, her voice carrying that same wild edge. "Let them try, they'll regret it." Ethan chuckled softly. Looking at them both, "We're not just surviving anymore, we're building something. And we're going to make sure it lasts." Months later, the day came. The council chamber was quieter than it had ever been, not because of politics or debate, but because two new lives had entered the world, one child with Lyara's calm silver eyes, the other with Sira's fierce golden glare, both with the unmistakable human spark in their gaze. As Ethan held them, one in each arm, the council members, the guards, and even the chancellor stood in silence. No one spoke, but the meaning was clear. These children were the bridge between worlds. Lyara leaned close, whispering, "You didn't just save us, you've changed everything." Sira grinned. "And I'm going to make sure they grow up knowing exactly how stubborn their father is." Ethan looked at them both, then at the children in his arms. "I didn't choose between you," he said softly. "I chose us." The sound of the crowd cheering outside the chamber drifted in through the open doors. For the first time since this began, Ethan allowed himself to believe it. This wasn't just a fragile hope anymore. It was the beginning of a new future.